There are 4 warning signs indicating you should invest into your tech recruitment team. So let me reveal the first one. So the first warning sign that you should invest is a burnout of some of your team members. So you may know that I have trained quite a lot of tech recruiters in different companies. Some of them are international, well-renowned companies, including Experis, Manpower, Accenture, and some of the recruitment agencies are local, but really great in the area where they are located. So some of them are really, really cool when it comes to tech recruitment in one country or in one city. And what do they have in common? Usually when they invite me to train their team is that usually there is, say, 3 out of 15 or 4 out of 15 people who are burned out. And they are burned out because they have not seen the results for the last few months of their activity as a recruiter or a sourcer. And IT recruitment can be really, really daunting, and at times it could be quite frustrating because developers are quite arrogant sometimes, especially if they see the recruiter knows nothing about IT. And there is this clash between software developers and recruiters, especially because software developers can quickly sense that the recruiter or a sourcer doesn't know about the IT role, about the programming languages, about the frameworks. And that's why they may burn out really quick. So the sourcer who is constantly sourcing, sending messages on LinkedIn with very little response will quickly burn out. But the question is why there is very little response. Usually when we uncover it, it's because they are sending messages that don't make much sense, and during the program the recruiters usually share their screen, and sometimes I'm in awe, like, how is this possible? Why you don't take time to learn about the role or the technology, the terminology, because they are just sending the messages all the time, and developers on the other side of the screen look at it and like, oh gosh, right? So the recruiter, the sourcer burns out after a few months. And as I mentioned, usually there are 2, 3, 4 out of 15 in a group who are already burned out. So you can see if your team members are burned out, it's one of the warning signs. And it may be already too late to save the people who are burned out. Sometimes it's better if they leave the company and they get a job elsewhere, maybe some other job, not recruitment, because they are already sick and tired. So make sure that you work with your team members and discover the early signs of a burnout. The second reason, our warning sign, is no close in 3, 4, 5, or 6 months. And to some of you, it may seem like, how could that be possible? Like, why would we keep someone who has not closed anyone for 6 months? But there are some companies that have people on their teams who have not closed a single candidate. So they have not filled a single vacancy in 6 months, and they keep them on a full-time basis on a payroll. So that's a substantial warning sign, indicating that something needs to improve in how the team works, whether it is training of the team member or management, KPI tracking, or some other aspects of how the team works, culture, probably the morale, the standards. So this is also something we usually look at when we look at the team. We look at individual team members and think, how can we get more out of them in terms of the performance? But some people start with 0, 0 in 3 months, 0 in 6 months. So we can quickly get them up to speed with proper training, proper onboarding, understanding of the IT landscape, understanding of IT roles, some simple productivity hacks, and eventually tracking KPIs and motivation. The third warning sign is that the recruiter avoids IT candidates. This usually happens when the company transitions from non-tech recruitment to IT recruitment. So I'm now thinking about a few agencies that I worked with in the past, and they focused on telco or customer service or sales, some other non-tech roles, and they start getting clients on board who ask them to recruit for IT roles, but recruiters sort of struggle with this because they, don't understand, they don't know much about IT, so they start avoiding these candidates. And we've been, for example, training one team in Accenture who was not sure how to approach job fairs, how to get in front of these people, developers, during a job fair, because it's really a substantial step out of the comfort zone for someone who has never worked in IT to go to a job fair and stand in front of a developer and talk about IT if the recruiter knows nothing about IT. So we also help in this direction to prepare recruitment teams for job fairs, so they know what to talk about, what questions to ask, how to make meaningful small talk. So this is really important, and if you see some of your team members avoid interactions with IT candidates, it's a substantial warning sign indicating that they may need some help when it comes to tech recruitment. And the fourth warning sign is a high fluctuation. This may also indicate some other problems within the company. So it's not just about the lack of IT understanding, the lack of IT training, the lack of IT recruitment best practices, but there could be some other problem in the company, obviously, starting with management, starting with, a cash flow or financial problems, lots of different issues that could lead to high fluctuation, or problems with managers, etc. But it could indicate. So when we look at high fluctuation, I usually try to understand why people left, what was their performance before they left, and sometimes it is tied to the burnout. Sometimes it is tied to them not being able to close anyone in 3 months or 6 months. Sometimes it's linked to the fact they actually cannot engage with IT candidates in a meaningful way. So the high fluctuation is like a secondary effect of these first three, but you can just look at your fluctuation for the last 1 or 2 years and you can see this number, which could also indicate there is some underlying problem. Okay, so this could be the underlying problems, and this is the one that you can spot relatively quick in your HR tool. Okay, so there are a few signs, as I mentioned, that could indicate you need to invest in your team. So you can invest in training. Like, for example, I work with recruitment agencies around the world, from the United States through Europe to India and even Australia, where I help them to understand the IT landscape. So recruiters know how to engage with candidates, also with clients, and they can have some proper interactions with these developers, how to screen them, how to get them engaged and enthusiastic about the vacancy at hand. So, IT is not any rocket science, but certain steps need to happen in order for the recruiter to be confident. So not avoid, but to engage interacting with candidates. So if you would like to see what do we do with other recruitment agencies, how we helped other recruitment teams become more confident in terms of IT recruitment, then why don't you schedule a call with me or my colleagues and we will talk about some of the strategies. I'll walk you through our proven methodology that helped hundreds of recruiters become more confident in tech recruitment. So just click the link that you can see below this video, fill in the contact form, and we will take it from there.